Welcome back to Arc Maine as we continue our coverage on the latest scandal plaguing Graham Platner.
Platner has had a string of controversies since announcing his campaign. The first was in October of 2025, when some of his now deleted Reddit posts were revealed. It included asking why black people don't tip, and another suggesting sexual assault victims should take responsibility.
Also in October of last year, reports came out about Platner's chest tattoo, which many said resembled the Nazi symbol. Platner's explanation was that he got the tattoo while in the Marines in 2007, not knowing the symbolism, and insisted that over the last 2 decades, no one ever mentioned the tattoo being potentially problematic. He then got it covered up the day after reports came out and showed it to us first right here on Fox 23.
Then, in the late April and early May of this year, more reports of old Reddit posts surfaced. These involved sexually charged comments involving portable toilets. Then in late May, after reporting from the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, Platner acknowledged exchanging sexually explicit text messages with other women during his current marriage.
Then in early June, some of Platner's former girlfriends described him as at times volatile, toxic, and abusive. Platner denied any physical abuse ever happened, and now one of those women who talked to the Times is behind the new reporting from Politico and CNN alleging Platner raped her back in 2021. She says she chose not to go public with it earlier because she did not want to be known as a rape victim, and also because she had a moral conflict of supporting Platner's politics, but not him as a voter. She says people deserve to know the type of person he is, though, so they can see his full character.
So joining us now to talk about this latest reporting is Ron Schmidt, who is a political science professor at the University of Southern Maine.
And Ron, we're seeing Democrats across the country calling on Platner to drop out of the race and rescinding their endorsements. But one question I'm seeing online is why this was the final line in the sand. So after all this that we just went through, we took like about a minute and a half before we introduced you. All those things, why this one?
You know, I think that a lot of Platner supporters never saw him as an angel, as somebody who was an unproblematic candidate. But I think they felt like the things that had happened, especially in the context of his service and the post-traumatic stress, was forgivable if he was changing and moving forward. That's sort of an old story in American politics. Yeah. But I think this is just too serious a charge to ignore. I mean, you mentioned the line in the sand. The idea that sexual assault is not a red line is oddly more controversial these days in our politics than it has any right to be. And so I think that it makes sense for the party nationally to step in and say, you know, no.
These allegations of sexual assault didn't surface months ago, Ron. They surfaced just before a major deadline for Democrats. How much does that timing matter politically?
A lot. And I think you can see that from the difference of his response this time to his previous responses. I think it's sort of obvious right now what the writing on the wall is saying.
Now, if Platner does drop out of the race, would Democrats be better suited going with somebody that maybe everybody already knows? Or, you know, a lot of people may say, let's bring in a sacrificial lamb and regroup 6 years later. I don't know. Who's out there that could step in and take his place?
I mean, I'm not inside of the party, and I can't really comment on their deliberations or what they're thinking, but I have to think that foremost in their minds is going to be all of these people who've been energized by the Platner campaign, who are thinking about participating in the election, and who might just get turned off if this isn't handled the right way. So they've got to be thinking about candidates who are already popular with the Democratic electorate, candidates who have a track record that shows integrity, and a process that will look open and transparent to the voters. And the easiest way to deal with all of those is to go with one of the recent candidates. So I think that Shenna Bellows or Troy Jackson from the other primary have to be foremost in their thoughts right now, as well as some other statewide candidates who the party is comfortable with.
And Ron, this is all kind of pending on if Platner drops out, which we don't know yet. If this does unfold that way, what would happen to Platner's campaign funds?
I don't know.
Okay, interesting.
Or in an ordinary circumstance, the losing campaign has control over that funding going forward.
I see.
But this is such an extraordinary circumstance that a lot of what we're looking at is unprecedented. And so I honestly am not sure what the correct answer to that question is.
Well, gauging on this, that a lot of people really think he's going to drop out. When do you think this would happen? I mean, the deadline is coming up on Monday.
Yes, it is. By 5 o'clock Monday, he's got to make the call, or else his name will stay on the ballot. And so, I think he's got to be facing pressure from people who want to defend the causes that he's been running on, right? If he stays around for too long, that'll only wind up undermining the chance of defeating Senator Collins. And I would guess that by Friday, he'd want to make a definitive statement of one kind or another.
By Friday, so a couple days away from now.
Yes.
Okay. Well, are you aware of anything like this happening in Maine before?
No.
For any office? No.
I've only been here since the 90s, but as far as I can tell, this is unprecedented ground. And so it's an incredibly high stakes moment right now for the Democratic Party, certainly, but also really for Maine in general. We've got a really robust voting culture. It's great to see, after having lived in places like Chicago and Los Angeles, where so many voters participate in the democratic process, little d democratic process. And there's a lot at stake in anything that might undermine people's confidence in how well that works. So there's a lot of pressure involved right now.
Yeah, how much do you think this is like having an effect on Democrats nationwide now? When, like, let's talk about maybe a month or two ago, this was a done deal. I mean, people thought Graham Platner was going to win, and maybe controlling the Senate was in the bag for Democrats. So everything's changed now.
Well, I don't think it was ever in the bag for Democrats, but it's close, and it's still a possibility. Even if the Democrats don't take Maine, they still have a shot in some other directions to get control of the Senate. That being said, I think there's got to be a lot of anxiety on the part of Democrats nationally.
And last question here, whether or not Platner drops his campaign, which, by the way, some Democrats are coming out saying they're supporting Platner still, like Stephen King. If he stays in this race, but again, if he drops, whether or not, do you think all of this hands this to Collins?
Senator Collins is a very strong candidate.
Yeah.
She's very good at running re-election campaigns. I was really surprised 6 years ago at her victory in that race. So I don't think there's a question of this handing it to her. I think she was already in a fairly strong position. It's still possible, if the Democrats can really maintain enthusiasm and turnout, that they could still win this. But a difficult job just got harder.
4 months away from the general election.
Indeed.
So we'll have to see what happens with the Democrats. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Important insight right now. Thank you, Ron.